Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cinema A to B. Today, Ben and I are going to tackle the epic 2023 Martin Scorsese film, Killers of the Flower Moon. So Ben, you finally watched it. You finally took the time to sit down and go through it. Thoughts, feelings, emotions.
So it's sitting between this spot where it should have chosen to be one thing or another. It either should have been a really excellent miniseries or it should have lost about 40 minutes to an hour and been a leaner, meaner feature film that I think more people would have watched. And I wish more people would have watched it because it has value and it is a largely forgotten until now piece of dark, American history. I felt like there was more he could have given me. Had it been like a 4 or 5 part series. And I don't know that it would have even cost him that much more money to do it. Because my guess is there was a director's cut of this. If the runtime is 3 hours, 26, there's got to be like a 5-hour director's cut of this movie. Just knowing how much footage Scorsese shoots, like that probably exists. And so 5 1-hour episodes were good. I had a hard time kind of slogging through some of this stuff. And there's scenes that just go on for no good reason. Mm-hmm. And the kind of monotonous music laid in those scenes doesn't really help either. There was just there's a scene of them at a celebration, a wedding celebration that just goes on forever. I mean, just forever. Like 20, 30 minutes. I'm looking at my watch going, we're still here. Like, can we advance the narrative, please?
And it doesn't add anything. Like,
no, it doesn't. Nothing.
There's nothing more that you couldn't have done in 3 to maybe 5 minutes of screen time in that wedding scene that you didn't need 20 minutes. Now, again, if it's building character, you're showing you things about it, I totally get why you do it, spend so much time. But no, it's literally just let's just shoot 20 minutes because that, you know what? I don't have to worry about time. And it adds nothing.
This is my big complaint with Scorsese. Basically anything after Wolf of Wall Street, he just can't edit down. Like he won't let Thelma edit the thing down. They keep gobs of material in that really don't serve a purpose. It's kind of so you're probably not going to ask me, but like there's a hypothetical here of does Marty still have it? And I'm saying no. I'm saying hasn't had it in at least probably close to a decade.
Wow.
I don't see it. He's not willing to edit his baby down and get it into a lean space that a younger filmmaker kind of brings themselves to doing. And we've seen this before. We see this. I see this with Ridley Scott. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing it a little bit with Michael Mann. They're just not willing to make really tough editing decisions to keep their films down and compact and watchable.
Well, and I'm going to stop you there. And I'll say it may not even be them. It may be kind of similar to like George Lucas with like episode 1. They don't have the people in the room who feel confident at telling them no or telling them this needs to be cut down. Because I don't know, Heat was long. I mean, as much as I love that movie, it's fantastic. It's amazing. It's a masterpiece, but it's definitely long. Most people think it's too long, but maybe it was longer. Maybe his Collateral was longer. Maybe like a lot of these stuff were longer, but there was enough people who didn't buy into the greatness and the majesty that are these directors that were willing to stand up and say, no, Michael Mann, no, Scorsese, you gotta, no, Ridley Scott, you need to cut these down. This is not watchable. I also think on the flip side too, when you've got these are going straight to streaming or very limited release, they don't need to be in the theaters. They're mostly for a streaming market. You can get away with having these much longer movies. It's like when what's his face? Zack Snyder's Justice League thing came out and it was like 4 hours long. And they're like, this is what should have come out. And I'm like, no, this is not what would have come out had he kept on doing the movie that came out in the theaters, because there's no way a 4-hour cut of Justice League would have made it past Warner Brothers to go into theaters. This is completely his own. I don't care. It's coming out of the theater, or like it's coming out into streaming. So the runtime doesn't matter because people can stop and start however they please, and they can pick it up when they want to and finish it. And this is this weird dynamic. And so no one needs to tell me no. No one needs to say you need to cut this down for time because it doesn't matter, because the butts are in their own homes and they can do what they want. They can do this stuff. So yeah, so it's hard. I mean, I think some of it obviously is the directors not being able to figure it out themselves, but they also may not have the people in the room who have that ability to tell them no and saying this is dumb.
I mean, Marty's had his editor. She's been with him for decades. I mean,
then I'm wrong in this case. Then
so they both. I think they're both making these decisions. Okay, so this was 3 hours 26. The Irishman's 3 hours 29.
Ugh.
Casino's 2 hours 58. So, and Casino's excellent. That is, that's a quick moving 3 hour film. This is not. This does not move particularly quickly. What disappoints me is I've watched this. I just watched it last night on the projector, and there's a baller movie sitting in here. Like it's really frustrating for me to even discuss this, because within this 3 hours and 26, there's a cut of this film that exists in my head that is like phenomenal and would have really, really given Oscar voters pause on handing it to Oppenheimer. Mm-hmm. Like if this movie could have gotten into 2 hours 45, somewhere in that territory where you're really throwing out about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, I still think the story you can tell. Mm-hmm. It's going to move at a much more frenetic pace, which I think it just needs. This is not There Will Be Blood. Like it really is suffering from pacing issues.
Well, and I think I also agree, but I think there's also some choices. Like I'm okay with some of the choices they made with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, but I feel like some of it could have been more hidden and been a bigger reveal at the end. And I think that could have also changed some of the emotional beats of the film. And it would be hard to kind of like, you'd have to change some of how the movie goes. But I feel like there were moments that could have been harder or more emotional had there been some reveal or some kind of like, you're unsure, but kind of knowing a lot of the things going in right up front, there's very little that you're surprised by.
Well, and the marketing wasn't that great either. They didn't try to hide anything really in the marketing at all. As far as, I mean, I could see it a mile away who was the protagonist, who's the antagonist.
Yeah. Well, and that's like with De Niro's character too. Like I could see maybe having Leo's character be open and you kind of know everything, but with De Niro's character, that could have been the reveal that could have been interesting, because I don't know, there's definitely a balance that they were playing. I'm with you. It took Laura and I think 2 times to sit down and finish this film. Like we stopped it and we're just like, oh my goodness, like I needed a break. Like I just can't, this is a slog. There's just too much. The dialogue wasn't terrible. Like the writing was fine. Like I felt like some of the dialogue was interesting. I just like, there was just too much that didn't need to be said or didn't need to be filmed. Like we could have cut that out. This 10, 20 minutes here, 5 minutes here. We needed to move on. It just was superfluous and the most part. So I mean, I agree with you. I would have asked you the question anyways if you thought Scorsese had kind of lost it. And I agree with you that I came in here with low expectations after The Irishman, of thinking, I was not happy with The Irishman. I felt it was very long, not interesting. And I kind of got the same thing here.
I mean, even in spite of that, most of the movie, I was still pretty engaged. The cinematography, hats off. I was very happy with the way the film is shot, the way it's color corrected. The composition, they do some interesting things, trying to keep things fresh as far as the way they have the blocking with the actors in certain scenes is really well done. You could tell they kind of shot fairly efficiently as far as they don't create an additional setup unless they absolutely have to. He's okay with like going back to like a previous shot setup in some scenes within the edit. And then as far as performances, like I really wrestle with it. DiCaprio does something that we haven't really seen him do here before as far as like playing a character. I mean, typically most of the time DiCaprio's character is like the smartest guy in the room. Like if you look at generally speaking, if he takes a role, usually he's the most brilliant guy on screen. And obviously in this, it's completely polar opposite. I don't really know if he was even the best choice for this, because I was almost distracted as a viewer by watching him perform. I never really forgot that I was watching DiCaprio go through, and it's not a knock on his performance. I think it has more to do with just how big of a star he really is. It's harder for me to see him disappear into a role than some other actors, like especially compared to somebody like Christian Bale, who I just think is one of the ultimate chameleons. For whatever reason, he just kind of melds into whatever role he's taking. But I'll be honest, I thought that Jesse Plemons could have probably played this just as well as DiCaprio. And because I almost felt like Plemons was kind of wasted as Tom White. I mean, I enjoyed watching him, but I was thinking Plemons could have played this.
Yeah.
There's a couple actors, I think I think that's the nature of the role. And
a lot of it too is the story. While he's definitely the leading character in it, Ernest is not really the main part of the story or the purpose of the story. It's just Ernest is kind of the vehicle that tells the story of like through kind of his viewpoint or kind of over his shoulder situation. And he's the kind of the catalyst for some things, but it's not really his story, you know? And so like it could be anyone. And I agree with you. Like it's definitely hard for DiCaprio to kind of jump these things or go in a different direction that he's not. I
appreciated his effort though. Like, and I appreciated the mouth contortion that he was doing in the role, as well as his accent work was largely very, very good. I'd say the same was true of De Niro as well. De Niro's performance felt a little more effortless. I felt like DiCaprio was really having to get deep within himself to bring this out, whereas De Niro is just, the nature of his character is just more at ease anyway.
And more similar to what he's played in the past.
Yeah, it was. He's played those characters before, just without the Southern kind of drawl.
Yeah.
As far as Lily Gladstone, I just felt like the character's like really one note, but I could tell that there's like a very gifted actress operating here, and the camera really does like her. She's got an intensity to her but I didn't understand the creative decision of having Mollie be low energy before she's really low energy. Yeah. Like it didn't make sense to me. I wanted to see more contrast before she's being drugged. Spoiler. Yeah. I felt like that was a mistake. I understand that the character's very sort of reserved and methodical and in control, but I didn't understand the decision of like having her basically be like nearly as low energy at the very beginning of the movie. It didn't seem as much of it was just like more of a slog watching. So, and maybe that's exactly what they wanted me to watch.
I came away very much the same of just kind of feeling, especially going this after she had gotten the nomination for Best Actress, and I didn't see it at all. Like, I'm not trying to say, I need to see Lily in more things, because I do feel a lot of it, maybe the direction. I want to see her again in something else to see what her range may be. But I felt like it was one note. Like, it was very much, she was the same from beginning to end. And even the points of emotional anger or in distress or in sadness, there wasn't a whole lot of changing of levels. Like, there was a couple crying moments. Great. She did great there. But other than that, it was very mellow. Not mellow, but I guess very one note, kind of the same feeling through all of it. And so I didn't get it. And so, I'd heard so many people of like, she needs to make the win in the Oscars. And disagreed. I was like, I don't think she's a bad actress. I don't think she's terrible. I need to see her in something else to really gauge whether or not she's a bad actress. But in this, I don't think she beat out really any of the people who were nominated, you know. No,
I'm in agreement with you there. I didn't have a problem with the nomination. And remind me, was she nominated for Best Actress or Best Supporting?
Best Actress.
Okay.
She was in because she lost to Emma Stone. Emma Stone right. Won for, which while I did not really like the movie Poor Little Things that much,
the performance
Poor Things, her performance was excellent. Was absolutely astounding. Like she ran kind of the gamut. Like she deserved it. Talking about performances, I will say, I would have preferred to give DiCaprio his best picture. Or not best picture, his best acting award, more so for his role in this as opposed to The Revenant.
To Revenant?
Yeah. The Revenant, I'm going to go down the rest of my life. I think DiCaprio is an excellent actor. Revenant is boring. He should never have won for it.
We've talked about this. Yeah, so we've got another short list that we've discussed. No, I think I would agree with you.
I don't think it's his best role, but I do think it's a much more interesting role, and it was much more of a stretch and much more deserving of a win. I mean, he didn't even get a nom for this, which...
See, that's kind of criminal to me.
Which confounds me. Like, this is going against his normal type, like you said, and he does it well. Yes. Is the movie not great? Yes. But there is brilliance in it. He does give a great performance. I think he should have been rewarded with a nom. Not a win. I still think Cillian...
that was amazing. Not going to happen.
Yeah, not going to happen.
I guess I didn't realize I thought for some reason he got a nomination for this.
No.
Oh, interesting.
De Niro did for supporting.
Right. And looked absolutely pissed off at the ceremony too.
Yeah.
Like I think he was still in character as William Hale. For the Oscars, I'm just gonna stay in character.
He's gonna just be angry at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because at the onset you're like, oh, okay, the only recognizable actors in this is Leo and De Niro, and then it goes on and it's like, okay, now we got Plemons showing up. Mm-hmm. Oh, and John Lithgow and Brendan Fraser. It just kept going. I was like, good grief, who else is going to show up in this? And it is a lot of moving pieces too. Like there's a lot of people to keep track of. But I did think that the script did a good job of that. I didn't really have too much confusion on who was who and the different sisters. So I applaud the writers, which it looks like there's three of them: Roth, Scorsese, and then this David Gran.
But Gran just did the book,
but they gave him, probably used him as a
resource or something.
Yeah.
Now, Roth actually did Dune Part 1. He was one of the writers for Dune Part 1. He's done a couple other things as well. So he's definitely familiar with long movies. And obviously with Dune, you have a movie that doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, and how do you get it across? He's been able to deal with kind of the minimalist scenario. And I feel like everything he saved up, he had to cut from the script in Dune. He just was like, all right, we're going to be verbose in Killers of the Flower Moon. We're just going to leave all the words that I didn't use in Dune. I'm going to put them into Killers.
But it's interesting because given the runtime, Killers of the Flower Moon is not a super talky movie, not compared to like Oppenheimer.
No, I mean,
there are moments where it slows down in the visual. He tries to do that thing where he just kind of lets the visuals trying to take over with. So I didn't think the score was particularly good for this either. It's minimalist. It felt repetitive. I never felt like there was actually like a real true definitive piece of music that's Killers of the Flower Moon. Like it was more ambient drones. It felt lacking. And so there were scenes where I was supposed to feel a certain way that I was like, I really need something, the music to get me 100% of the way there. But no, make no mistake, the movie's utterly devastating to watch. Like there are times where DiCaprio feels like an SS guard or something under the Nazi regime. Like
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like as much of a patsy as he is,
follows orders, but also kind of
like
enjoys his orders.
Yeah, it is an interesting character. It's an infuriating character.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting his character to be as kind of intriguing as it is before I went into the film. As far as Ernest, he's not particularly complex, but the situations he puts himself in are certainly complex. But yeah, it's like he's always presented with two roads that he can go down, and he inevitably picks the wrong one.
Yeah.
Every single time.
The easy one, the one with possible money, makes his life easier kind of a situation.
Yeah.
He's just a very selfish character. And that comes across in how DiCaprio plays him. But he's also, like you said, like he's not the smartest guy in the room. He's far and away removed from the smartest guy in most of the rooms that he's in.
Yeah, but the movie does a good job of crafting him in such a way that's accurate with research when it comes to people at that intelligence level. They actually do think that they're the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really intriguing. They've done research on this stuff, psychological profiles. The smartest person in the room usually doesn't think that. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't. They have the emotional intelligence typically to be like, there's stuff that I just don't know. But a guy like this typically will think he's smarter than everybody else. It's part of his foolishness. Mm-hmm. Like, if somebody wants to look up the word fool in the Hollywood dictionary of like moviedom, this is going to be my first character that I pick. Like, I don't know if I've seen dumber characters, but certainly not ones that have been presented with like the opportunity to do the right thing again and again and again and again and again.
Or even the smart thing.
Just refuse to go down that road. It's wild.
Yeah.
By the way, that guy didn't die until like 1986. Spoiler.
What?
Really?
Yeah,
he lived a hell of a long time. Yes, he did.
Holy cow. That's...
And then the other fun little anecdote, I think some people that listen to us know that I live in Wichita, Kansas. That's actually where William Hale is buried. I don't know where his grave is here, but he's buried in Wichita, which I thought was really, really wild.
Yeah.
Maybe people can
go... Get out of Oklahoma.
It's probably unmarked since the rest of us just want to go and spit on it.
Do things that you shouldn't too.
But yeah, the Osage were here before they eventually filtered down into Oklahoma. And then the movie mentions that Missouri, Kansas, I believe Nebraska as well. Before they eventually settled down in Oklahoma and then struck oil.
I don't know. So we've had to deal with a lot of long movies in the last little bit. I mean, like this, obviously Napoleon was really long. I mean, heck, Oppenheimer was 3 hours, but there's something about, Oppenheimer that I feel like Napoleon, The Irishman, this didn't have, where I was drawn in and the movie didn't feel 3 hours. This felt like, I can tell you right now, Killers felt 4 hours. I felt like I watched it for 2 hours one night and watched it for 2 hours another night. And that's not. I
sat it through one sitting and it felt like about 4.5.
Yeah, Yeah. There's so much that could be cut, so many ways to make things more interesting, I believe. And I'm saying this as, I make all the movies, so I know what I'm talking about. But as a viewer, I can tell you, I've watched movies that are long, that are very interesting, that drive me along, that bring me along. But this didn't do it. There was a lot of good stuff. Like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, there is a brilliant movie, or a brilliant movie edit out of this footage.
There is. There's one sitting in here. No, we don't. This is not it.
This is not it.
There is a absolutely masterful movie that would probably be rated like an 8.2 or an 8.3 on IMDb with this material. And they wouldn't have to shoot anything new. It needs a leaner edit, in my humble opinion, and it needs a better score. And you would have had a movie that really would have I really think it would have made Academy voters' life a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
Had it been, but that's just my opinion. It's not a bad film by any stretch, but.
And I wanted to like this movie. Like, I really like Scorsese, and I really wanted something better to follow up from The Irishman. I just really felt that was kind of a big miss. And I was like, this looks like it's going to be a good cast. It's going to be really interesting. It's got some dark tones that it needs. It looks good. I mean, it's $200 million. I think that was the budget for this thing. Like, this thing is expansive.
And pretty much shot on location too.
Yeah. So I know I've got family who live in Tulsa, and they were talking about all the stuff. And
we heard about rumblings. My wife's work heard rumblings because there's a branch, her company down there, that they were renting. I think they were renting equipment, like light towers and stuff like that, or generators. It's, I don't remember exactly what, but the filming locations are pretty much it's all Oklahoma. So
well, I know
a little bit in New York, but
and I know Leo was seen around the Tulsa area as well. So they probably were holed up close by or something.
Yeah, and I'm not, that far from Tulsa at all. So
nope. That's why I go see you when I go visit family.
Yep. But we will, when you come visit, we will not be sitting and watching.
No, we will not be.
Let's watch an encore presentation of Killer Cell.
Did it get any better?
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Unless you want to try your own edit of it and see what you can do with it.
I would never. No,
with all your extra time that you have. So going back, I didn't actually think, like Jesse Plemons is, I think, an actually very underused, underappreciated actor. And I didn't really sit down and think about what if he had been in the Ernest role.
Oh, he could have crushed it.
Yeah, until you said something. I think that, honestly, I agree with you. I think that would have been the better pick for that space.
He just might not have been old enough to be running opposite Lily.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is a little bit of an age difference there.
Yeah.
Although they did make Lily look older than she is.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, she's not.
And she's like 12 years younger than, like 10, 12 years than DiCaprio, which is way too old for him. But that's a separate thing. But so I think Plemons, because Plemons is not that much younger than us, right?
No, I don't think so. So I think Ernest Burkhart, 1892 to 1986.
Wow.
And they pardoned
they pardoned him?
Yeah, they pardoned him. Remember, they pardoned him in we're playing spoiler on this. I don't care.
Oh, that's right. Okay, no, it's been
they did pardon him. But he died. He was 94. Convicted of first-degree murder, which is interesting that they convicted him of a first-degree murder charge of Bill Smith when he wasn't the one that set the charges.
Yeah.
Or at least we don't think he was. It's possible that he was. I don't know. But I think that was that AC or something. The amount of names you got to kind of keep track of with this.
Well, it could have been just one of those things of like, we can't charge you for all the ones we know you did, but can't prove.
Yeah.
So we're going to charge you for the one that.
But it was interesting. They just did. I guess they were just trying to get him put away. Yeah. And that's why they didn't charge him with because Bill's wife at the time was what? Rita? I think so. I think so. I was trying to think of how old he was, like actually supposed to be. Yeah, he was younger than, that's what didn't make sense to me, is he was like younger than her in real life. She was born in 1886 and he was born in 1892.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plemons, I think, looks younger than he actually is. And they probably could have dressed that up. I don't know. Just everything I've seen him in, and especially lately, I think he is far better of an actor than we give him credit for.
I think he's the closest we have to Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Okay. Well, I definitely don't need to talk now because that's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, he feels like kind of like a younger Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like,
he has the intensity. He can dial it up really quick.
Well, and so it's a shame that he's not in Twisters. Come on, man. Like
food.
He should have been. Come on.
We crave sustenance. He just plays Dusty's son.
Would have been perfect. Oh.
I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen Twisters yet. Yeah. I love Plemons in Game Night as Gary. One of the funniest characters in any movie you'll ever see is Gary.
Well, he did a great role. He did one of the shorts for Black Mirror. I think it was one of the seasons.
Yeah.
He did one. And that was one of the first ones where I was just like actually really impressed by just the how do I say it? The kind of the emotional intelligence as an actor to kind of hit those points of playing a character that obviously is not you, but being able to play them as kind of an introverted character, but yet still get that across to the audience of being able to be on that journey of see that emotional kind of what's happening behind the eyes, but yet get that on your face. And he really hit that. And it's one of those where that's really tough to do. And it's really hard to see. And it's one of those things where you can't really teach that. I mean, no. I don't feel like I was able to ever kind of really get that across, but
I just love his original nickname from his time on Breaking Bad.
Oh, that escapes me.
Meth Damon.
Meth Damon.
long time ago.
Long time ago.
And obviously by this point, I've not seen the movie yet, but I've seen the clips and the scenes just super intense. Plemons
from Civil War?
Yeah, his last minute casting in Civil War. It's crazy. That's probably as good of an example of like his prowess as an actor because he's barely in that movie. And folks I know that have seen that are like, he basically steals the film. Yeah. Like and he didn't want to do it either. They asked him at the last minute, like, would you, because I think Dunst was a producer on it. And she's like, will you please do this role for us?
And I haven't seen it, but what I've heard is that he just is the scariest thing about that entire thing. I just always see him. I just see the Friday Night Lights TV show. Yeah. And his character in that. And it's why it took me so long to really realize, oh, actually you are a good actor, not just this WB-esque, right. Teen soap opera show character.
Given all my critique with this is still one of those movies that I think most people, if you can sit down and get through it, like you need to watch the film for its historical value. Mm-hmm. And if you're not gonna sit down and watch this, then at least find a good documentary. And I don't know one offhand that's going to cover these events and it was interesting to me with the end of the film that like this did kind of capture the attention of the nation immediately following, like in the probably 10 to 20 years, 15 years after the events, like it did capture the nation's imagination, but after that, it was really quickly swept under the rug and forgotten. Yeah.
Kind of like the Tulsa Massacre as well, that when we all learned about that from Watchmen. Right. So unless you grew up in Tulsa.
Yeah. It's dark days.
Dark days. I agree with you. There's definitely, and there are great things about this film that will come across. Good performances, good writing. It's just bloated is the one word I kind of walk away from it. It just feels bloated in many aspects. And if it could kind of been cut, kind of been edited a little bit better, some of the dialogue, not punched up, but just less of in some scenes or in some areas and condensed, I agree. I think we could have had a fantastic film, one that would have given Oppenheimer a run for its money.
Yeah.
But nobody could tell Scorsese no. And this could also be one of those things where it's the writer of the book is helping you write the screenplay. They just want to keep everything in because they don't want you
That's possible, yeah.
They don't want you to butcher their book.
Which goes back to my miniseries argument.
Well, and then with the miniseries, you could have cliffhangers. You could have these moments or these reveals and take the time to get everyone kind of then a lot more engaged. I'm leaning, the more we discuss it, I'm leaning more that against a 2-hour, 45-minute edit of this movie and more towards a 5-hour
miniseries. Yep. Mm-hmm. Limited series. Absolutely.
Well, then because then you can go the opposite direction. Instead of trying to cut down things for time, you can add more things to build the characters more.
Yes.
And then you can kind of, you could have that 20-minute wedding scene, maybe make it 30 minutes, but then add in a little bit more interaction. So some of these these tertiary characters, you get to know a little bit more. So when they pop up dead or when they get involved, you're more connected. And that makes some of the emotional beats later on that much better.
Yeah, by the way, anytime I pass a Masonic lodge now, I'll never not think there's somebody in there getting paddled.
That's fair.
I'm like, what is going on? He's like, take that book off. like, what the heck is going on? And then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Awkward. And this is what they pay millions of dollars to do. You know, apparently, you get the upper echelons. You got to pay that money. So you can get paddled by the best of them.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our conversation on Killers of the Flower Moon. I appreciate everybody listening in. Obviously, we didn't love this one, but we do feel like there is a really good film kind of hidden within this that you're kind of going to have to look past some of its deficiencies to see. But we'll be back here next week with something, either something new or something old. We shall see.
Or something in between.
Depends on the release date, man. Depends on the release date. Could be old, could be new. I don't really know. We're just flying by the seat of our pants here on Cinema A to B.
Thanks, everybody.